Welcome to episode 4 of the PEBAheads with Jay, Michael, and Sean. How's it going, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good to see you guys.
All is well
Happy
here.
happy Thanksgiving shortly.
Thanksgiving week. Hopefully nobody's got to work. Or if you are working, hopefully you're not doing a lot of work.
Yes, I agree. I took the week off myself, so I'm looking forward to just getting other stuff done and relaxing.
Yeah, focus on PEBA. Get the minor leagues in order.
Yep, for sure.
Well, we got a packed episode today with some topics that got sent in from our fellow GMs of the league. So before we get to those topics, though, we have to kind of fulfill our obligation since we started a trend on the other two episodes that the three of us were together and talking about Burrough, our Burrough watch, and see how things are going up in the land of Crystal Lake. So with that, I'm gonna pull him up here and just see. I know you guys have been super busy with your work schedules, so you probably haven't gotten a chance to really dive in on Burrow Watch for the week, but any initial thoughts on where he's at? I know he started off hot, but it looks like things might be cooling down as of late.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the average is still lower than I would expect, kind of with his ratings but I guess it's kind of the risk though too, right? Like there's always sometimes a hidden thing behind, right? It's never, oh, a six is a six is a six is a six, right? So I'd expect, the average to still come up a bit. The home runs are starting to come back down to earth, and he's now kind of, I think the last time the three of us were on here, I kind of mentioned like he's still probably going to end up being that like 3.5, 4 WAR player. Sounds like, or it looks like he's kind of dropping pretty quickly there. So we'll see. Interested to see how it goes, but I don't think you'd be too surprised or disappointed here with it. Like he's still being a productive center fielder, and I do think OOTP does not even capture like the value of good defense in center field either. So
Yeah, I'd say he's kind of doing exactly like I'd expect him to be doing right now. He's not overwhelming. He's still just kind of working through his rookie season, 24 years old. I mean, if you start looking into the weeds a bit, he doesn't do well when he's behind in the count, so he's not patient at the plate. Better in not really important situations, not doing so hot in high leverage situations. Um, he's kind of just pretty average right now, but he's going to be still like Jay said, serviceable. He's still going to do well enough. He's still going to play defense. He's going to hit home runs. And that's kind of what you're expecting the first year. It's still a growing year. The hope is obviously that it just continues to improve from here. At least it's positive right now. That's I think the big takeaway. It's kind of positive contributions. And it's just hopefully he'll get to build off of this year and we'll see from there. Because obviously I think Crystal Lake has big expectations because they're doing a lot better maybe than some people have hoped. And they put a lot of time in, obviously, to build a team around them. I'm getting off topic of Burrows for a second, but like Orlando Trujillo, I know that I wasn't able to re-sign him. He signed real cheap to go over to Crystal Lake for a year, but he's just doing amazing right now. So I'm kind of cringing at letting him go. Lima's still amazing. So the team is really trying to put the effort in there. So I'm not surprised that the expectations are high. So Burrow's doing what I think he's going to be at about this level. Maybe he'll get up to like 250, 260 by the end of the year. We'll see. But I'm still expecting 30 something home runs. Still being a positive contribution right now.
Well, last week it looks like he might be settling in at as like in his fifth batting spot. One thing I noticed, we'll get to that here in a second, but batted 286 last week, 400 on base percentage, and so he was getting on base. The power, surprisingly, wasn't there this week. But one thing I did notice when I was diving in on this was that when he was producing, not just at the the power level, but at a on base level, he was batting fourth, and it looks like at some point RJ moved into fifth. So not sure if just like being in the cleanout spot more, or maybe he was protected there better. But there definitely seems to be something to that, and I know certain players have expectations of being at certain spots of the lineup, but it looks like in his case, he just wants to be in the lineup. So should be interesting to see how that's managed moving forward. But it did stand out, and I don't know, small sample size, so maybe that'll normalize as we go along. But
Yeah, I mean, you can't complain when he's in the top 5 on his team in average, home runs, RBI. His name's everywhere, so he's definitely contributing. You'd like to see a little bit more just because of the hype.
The 60
But I exactly $60 million man. But at least it's positive. It's not a big old negative, and he's bombing, hitting like 180 or something.
he's still kind of slow on the bases, right? Like he's not swiping a lot of bags this year.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last time. I mean, that could be an RJ thing, whether he sets his team to run or not, whether he tweaks. So I forget what he said. If I know he did some tweaking. He said I don't know how deeply he started messing around with all of his settings. But yeah, it's going to be different for every team, every GM, and however they make their settings. I guess I would like to see more out of Burrough to get some stolen bases, because it seems like he's got the speed, he's got the stealing ability. I know RJ said he was hesitant on those 8 guys.
I think there's a kind of rule a lot of OOTP players, like if speed's higher than stealing, they'll kind of be more conservative there because they're a little too aggressive. But I wonder if that's kind of costing them here.
Oh, I don't listen to any of those. I just send them and hope.
Just keep your first base coach and third base coach just.
I'm just really looking forward to his bunt for hit. I mean, you know, how many bunt for hits he'll have this year.
I want to see someone who actually sets that high, because I have a couple guys like that. I'm like, I don't know, you're not bunting. I don't want to see you bunt.
The first thing I do when I pick up any batter is just change that slider all the way down. Never bunt.
Exactly. I want to see somebody. I would like to see somebody set their player like to the max of that. Obviously, they have to have the rating for it, the speed, but set it to the max. Yeah. I want to see how they do for the year. That's what I want to see.
I was say probably find somebody on Mike's team.
Yeah, it's gonna be Aurora, maybe the Wind Dancers. Like one of them's got to have a player or two that may be productive that way.
That would be a fun thing to try to search down and find out.
Yeah. We'll table that for a separate discussion, because I want to spend most of our time on one of the topics that another GM sent in for us to kind of dig in. And the thought behind it was that, you know, we all have different schedules, different amounts of time being able to devote to this game, and you know, some guys were able to in the past devote a lot more time than they are now due to just things going on in their lives. And so they tasked the 3 of us to highlight some new, young, and upcoming players, because in our last discussion, we kind of talked about the Don Washington deal between you guys, and the GM that reached out was like, I didn't even know that guy was even a player. Like, so it's kind of the criteria that we kind of shot for here, was guys that, you know, if you are diving in and able to have the time, you might already know who these guys are, but young players that are in the league that might be rookies, might have just got their call up, or, you know, maybe they are just now hitting their stride. So I'm going to go back here to regular season standing page, and then let's start with you, Michael, your first player to watch or highlight this year.
Sure. I'm going to start actually. I will get into Don Washington just to kind of close the book on him for now. Because I think we've always kind of joked about him and talked about him, but we didn't really deep dive too much into him. But I'm going to start off and I know I always butcher this name, and it was clarified on Scott's podcast. Gloucester, with one of their pitching not prospects, because I think he's been kind of split in time the past couple of years, but Norishige Ito. I know Andy was always looking at him as possibly a two-way player. He's got some batting skills. He's got some pitching skills. For me, preference-wise, I always saw him as a much better pitching option. He's really that type of pitcher that I would kind of typically go for. He's got some good leadership skills, good stamina, got some good velocity, 4 pitches. Just going to be, in my opinion, at 24 years old, righty, just going to be that kind of consistent presence on that rotation in the future. I know Andy's kind of really planning on building through the draft and taking it slow. I know he's got O'Day on the way up. I always kind of jokingly said, like, if you're going to really make a push with the team in the future, really just time it all with whenever O'Day is finally available. I know that's part of the discussion later today of timing of when you guys move, or when you move players up to the next minor league and so forth. But really, that's the way I would have timed it for him. And nicely with Ito, he's only 24 years old, so he can still last another couple of years before he gets here. But I know that this year he's kind of started off hot. He doesn't really have a team around him. But only 2.98 ERA, 2-4 for the year, only 3 home runs given up. Not the greatest whip, but a K per 9 of almost 8 strikeouts a game, or per 9 innings. So lots of things to like. I would personally, if I was Andy, I'd probably stop with the batting for him. I don't see him being an Ohtani type of guy. I know that's kind of what he was hoping for when he first drafted him. Unfortunately, his bat, I don't think, is as promising as his pitching. But definitely an interesting player to watch out for. I got big hopes, and I constantly looking on Ito just to see how he's doing, because he's just such an interesting player. And I think he's going to be a big name in the future for the fishermen over there.
That's a good one to get us started for sure. Throw it over to you, Jay. Who do you have for your first?
So mine, I went with the most generic name in all of baseball, Bob Smith, Fargo Dinosaurs. I've been following the Fargo kind of minor league system since I kind of joined the league. But this is, kind of, I always thought he was interesting because if you look at the way that his ratings are split, like, he hits righties so well. So, like, typically, your righties are probably going to get 80% of your starts, 75% of your starts. And I think, like, this is, like, the prime guy for, like, a platooning role, right? Like, he hits righties so well. Like, I don't think he's going to be whatever he's on pace for now, 46 home run, 300 average guy. But I think, like, he could be one of those number 3, number 4 hitters that, can do some damage on the base pass, do some damage in the field. Like, he just seems like kind of a complete player. And I feel like he's one of those guys, because Fargo's so loaded in their minor league system, he often got overlooked. But I think this is, like, somebody that I've been paying attention to, and I think he could be really kind of one of those, maybe not like your franchise, maybe not your Don Washington, right? But one of those ancillary guys that you're going to build the team around and can put really kind of anywhere in that 2 to 6 in your batting order, as long as you've got his cohort, right? Like, somebody who can hit lefties on the other side. And it looks like that's what Fargo's doing, as he's got 32 games started and 35 games played. So I assume, maybe he's not starting every game against lefties out there, but this is kind of like somebody that I would look at as like a cornerstone, if I was, trying to start a team here.
Yeah, it looks like last week he had a pretty nice week too.
Yeah.
At least 3 games there in a row with home runs. Let's see. Yep, 3 in a row.
Yeah. 1 against Shinseki and 2 against Palm Spring. Yeah, some good outings there.
Yeah, and I mean, 3 home runs, 12 RBI in a week. You're not going to complain about that. And it's crazy. You look at, like, got a 370 on base percentage for the week and struck out 8 times. So strikeout or hit.
He's not gonna avoid Ks.
Yeah. Crazy though. 12. Let's see. 6 out of 9 hits were extra base hits too. So
But he flashed some of it last year too. Like I think he only played like what 65, 70 games or something. But like he kind of looked like he had some potential. I just don't. Obviously, he's not going to be that almost 300 hitter though. But still, I think like if you could keep him to just facing righties or starting against righties, like this is kind of a guy.
yeah, I mean, if you take what he did last year and double it, and say that's what he'll get for a year, I'll take 42 home runs.
Yeah, which he's basically what he's on pace for now, 46 or something. So.
Right.
We'll get to it.
All right. Guy I want to highlight here on Palm Springs. Starting pitcher, Sigochi Yamaguchi.
It's quite the name.
Just butchered that name. Sorry to his parents. But what's interesting with him is he's still so young, but I like that he was brought up a little bit before being fully developed. I think sometimes people get into this topic a little bit more later in the show, but sometimes people wait for a player to be all the way developed before they call them up to their team. And what I think's nice is he was called up last year, got 20 appearances, 31 innings. So he's brought up, looks like, as a reliever. Got some time, did all right. But if he produces to what his ratings are, I think he'll be a solid starting pitcher for Palm Springs to build around for a long time. He's got a nice pitch mix. And just, I mean, overall, the results aren't there yet, but no red flags. He doesn't have all the team around him yet to probably fully be reach his max level, especially the ground ball pitcher. You're gonna need that good infield defense, but definitely somebody that Palm Springs can build around.
I think what's interesting too on him, like if you look at like his progression, I think he came into the league, stars are only, one thing, but like click on scouting, like he was like a half-star prospect or something. But I think when he started out and he just exploded one off season.
It's always crazy how that works. And then once it happens, they really do.
Yeah.
I've rarely ever seen someone get that initial boost and then have it go back the other way. Like normally it's pretty well foregone conclusion that they're going to be pretty good. So
I like that his pitches are pretty much fully developed. So even if he's not 100% there yet for himself, his repertoire is there. Pitch 100 miles an hour, ground ball. Seems to have the good control. He doesn't have a lot of walks. I'd like him to give up a little less home runs, but it's still early. This is definitely a good one to keep an eye on for Palm Springs. This is a future big talent for sure.
I wonder if this guy ever went to winter ball. Like if this guy had a fourth pitch, he's an ace.
Typically, it should be documented in their history. I know Mike does a good job of making sure it's documented. So I haven't checked the winter ball logs, but I don't see it in his player history that he went to winter ball. Because I was going to say, like, maybe he get a fourth pitch on him.
Sure,
yeah.
Since all of his ratings are so high anyway, really try to maximize them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he got another one here too. Because as you noted, Jay, he started off, got that boost, got to the 9.57, 8.67 range, and then this last offseason he got another boost. So that could have been with that stuff that kind of indicates to me that maybe there was a pitch added, but yeah, that'd be interesting to look.
Yeah,
maybe we missed it, or I don't know. I don't see a pitch added on the log here, so yeah, maybe it's just got another boost, but definitely got to watch out for.
Yeah.
Who's next on your list, Michael?
We can stay in Palm Springs. We'll just do Adam Barnes. Switch it up a little bit to a guy who's a little bit older, who hasn't really gotten a chance. Um, he was blocked, unfortunately, in New Jersey, and now with the move to Palm Springs, he's really getting a chance to show that he is ready. Picked him up actually from Jay, I believe, a while ago. I forget in what trade.
One of the
Was it Jay? Was it with you, Jay?
I think you had picked him up right before I came in from whoever that general manager.
Okay, I took Marcos Sanchez's contract at that time. Yeah, that's what that deal was. I was taking on Sanchez's contract. The hopes was that his speed and his batting average, that's kind of what I was looking at when I grabbed him, that was eventually going to develop. Unfortunately for me, I know I gave him a couple chances, really just minimal up in the majors with New Jersey, but he was really blocked by at that time. I had Strider, I had Johnson, I had Sanchez, I had other guy. They like he just never really got a chance. Martinez came in then. Um, so I'm happy to see that now that he's gotten a chance to really play. I think last year when I was watching him in AAA is when I could see like, okay, this dude's finally he's been knocking it out of the park in AAA for a while, but I thought like last year he was finally ready to come up, and I just unfortunately couldn't really get him the time up. And now that he's had the time, he leads the team in average, leads the team in home runs, or tied for lead in home runs, which isn't a lot. Leads the team in stolen bases, top 2 in RBI. I think he'll be a nice little piece. I don't expect him to like take over and win any like huge awards or anything. He's going to probably be anywhere from like a three WAR kind of outfielder, but just a consistent piece that's probably good to have on your team. Is going to get you the stolen bases. At 27 years old, I think he'll do well for the team. I was happy to contribute to Palm Springs kind of little reshuffle there, and I have big hopes for Barnes just because I didn't get a chance to really get him a shot to shine.
Yeah, I think I remember when I came in and took over the Malls. I was looking through your roster because I think me and Mike probably made like 5 trades in like the first like season and a half. I was in Madison, and Adam Barnes was like, damn it, I wish I still had that guy. Like this is a guy I needed my center field there, outfield there, but alas, couldn't get it done. But I'm glad to see him kind of taking off though.
Yeah, it's the thing is just sometimes the opportunities aren't there. I wish he was a little bit more flexible in the field as well,
Yeah.
and maybe he would have gotten a shot earlier, but it didn't work out. But the hope is there. I think he'll be good.
Well, with the first 3-4 that we've covered here, bar's been set pretty high. So who do you got next, Jay?
So for mine, actually, I'm gonna keep the bar set high. So Jack Sosa, he's on Havana, Leonis. This guy to me, he was somebody that I was really looking at coming into the draft. I think it was my second draft, like 2037, and I had him very high on the list. And he just kept falling. He ended up going, I think, 22nd overall. But like this guy to me is like almost like the perfect pitcher for like kind of that number 2, number 3 pitcher on your staff, right? Like he's got good control, he's got good movement, he's got good stuff. Like, and I'm a big ground ball pitcher guy. If you look at his pitch repertoire, like it's forkball, splitter, curveball. Like those are going to get you a lot of ground outs on their own, right? So having that with being a ground ball pitcher, hitting like the mid 90s, like this is somebody that I think is going to be like potentially in the running for Golden Arm Awards in the future. Still only 23. He's a lefty, like kind of harder to come by, but this is just somebody that for me, like I don't know that people have been giving him a lot of attention, and he's just now in his rookie year. I think he was last year AA, but this is like a guy that I think could be a difference maker for a long time here. And even look at now, like a 331 batting average on balls in play is really high, right? Like that's not going to keep up. Like this is somebody that probably will end up being that 5.5 WAR player as a 23-year-old and kind of in the contention for top pitcher in the league moving forward. So kind of wanted to call him out, and if anybody's trying to trade him, Florida's open for business. So.
Hey, I reached out to Havana last year about one of their players and was told not just no, but hell no. So I don't think they're going to be giving up anytime soon or shopping any of these guys. I think they still believe they've got a shot. Um, it's going to be tough, but you also see some of these wild card teams, starting off slow. So maybe they add a piece here or two here or there, have some of these young guys take a step. It could be interesting, but
Yeah, I like Sosa. This was a good one, Jay. This is a guy I did not have on my radar. Lefty. I love myself some lefty pitchers. Like the pitch repertoire. Wish he had a little bit more stamina. Could go a little bit longer in games, but early in his career, like what I'm seeing. Yeah, definitely somebody I'm adding to my radar just to watch. And to your point, Sean, yeah, I don't think Havana's going to be moving him anytime soon. But yeah, definitely an interesting team. So I look forward to watching progress.
and how can you not like a guy whose nickname is Sweet Hops?
in on the mound too. Not even like outfield or center field. Just hops on the mound. So
Sweet Hops. Be a perfect fit for Madison.
bring him in.
Yeah,
There you go. The malts.
definitely.
Brewing hops for those that didn't get the joke. Anyway, at least my two buddies here did. I'm gonna go over back to Fargo on the starting pitcher side of the house. I want to talk about lefty David Garcia. Was acquired back in 2036 from Tempe, and this guy, if you don't know who he is, you're gonna find out pretty quick. Last year was his rookie year. Started off, I mean, didn't nothing to write home about. Right around league average or just below league average on ERA plus. But again, you see these ratings, and if he reaches anywhere near his potential, if his control goes up a little bit more, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in that division. He's got a great repertoire. I always laugh at that word because it's hilarious how many people pronounce it so many different ways. And then you have like, who's the guy? There's a guy on like Sunday Night Baseball that used to just, it was like repertoire. It was some, I had to put his like French pronunciation onto it. It's like, dude, you're not impressing anybody. Oral Hershiser, that's who it was. Anyway, I digress. The best part about this guy though is anytime you've got two pitches that are tens, it should be a game changer. And he's also throwing 99 to 101, so that 10 fastball is even better because he's got the speed to go with it. Guys probably already know this, but one of the things with the fastball is that if he had a 10 fastball and it was a 92, it's not going to really be as effective of a pitch as what it is as a 10 with 99 to 101. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, that's common sense. It is, but the same token, if you're looking literal at things and you're like, oh, it's a 10 fastball, they're not all created equal. The speed definitely matters with this fastball. And it goes well when you do have the off-speed pitches that he has with the circle change and then the knuckle curve. It looks like we'll get there at some point since it's already halfway developed. And he's got a decent slider to go along with it too. So definitely expecting this guy to be a high strikeout guy moving forward. And really just as Fargo, once they decide they want to go, he's going to be a guy that's going to carry them a long way. So
I'm glad Fargo's bringing some
well.
of these guys up though. Like I think he's had all these guys kind of marinating the minors, and now kind of last year or so, like he's really kind of making that effort. And I think that division is so wide open that like these guys are truly the future over there. So I always love to see a good knuckle curve too. You don't see it too often. So
I'm just like taking mental notes because it's like so many future topics we could have. One being not just Fargo, but some of these other teams when they do make that next leap, and then just kind of
We're going to get into some of it later.
yeah.
But yeah, no, perfect. To zone in on some of these teams. Charleston's another one.
Yeah, and talk about where we think their windows begin, and kind of it'll be interesting to get feedback from the different GMs that we or the teams that we highlight, and the GMs and what their thoughts are. But anyway, we're just teasing all these great ideas so that you guys continue listening to us bore you to death about PEBA baseball. But who's next on your list, Michael?
I'm going to go for a twofer, try to go through them a little bit quicker, just in Madison. So we're touching base over there. Still completely infatuated with Madison, what Dad's doing over there. Hopefully they turn it around. They're kind of hovering around 500 now, but they have some big names on there. Obviously, some young team. You got Han Ki-Fu won the Rookie of the Year last year. You got some good arms. I heard he was high on Kim to begin with, but now you add in a couple other guys that look like they're going to work out. And what I like about these two guys, and I'm speaking about Misao Okada and Iemitsu Kato, just two fifth rounders. Like, yes, obviously you need to consistently make sure you're paying attention to the draft and you're drafting well in every round. And I think that's a topic for later too, trying to find some of those diamonds in the rough in the later rounds, aka Washington. But it's guys like this, like you get those kind of maybe a little bit deeper draft. You make sure you're still paying attention, picking well. Okada with the weed nickname there looks like he's got a bright future ahead of him. This is really his first year, his first shot. He's been brought up relatively quickly. Dad obviously wants to start getting competitive pretty quickly if he can. I had Okada listed as my Rookie of the Year this year. I think he slowed down after quite a hot start there. Hit a couple bumps, some growing pains there in Madison, but he's one guy that I'm going to have my eye on. And then even Cato really kind of speaks to me like Orlando Trujillo, who I just talked about earlier when he got away to Crystal Lake this year. He's got some solid pitches. He's more of a control pitcher. That's kind of something I've always liked more. I know everyone's kind of really into the stuff and the power pitchers. I like the guys who are going to have those high controls. They're just, to me, they seem to last a little bit longer. They seem to be a little bit more consistent year over year. And Trujillo is like doing amazing this year after having a slight little slump last year and starting slow. So Cato to me kind of fits that mold. I'm excited, just as excited for him as I am for Okada. And then you pair him with Kim, and I know he's trying to probably figure out the 4 and 5 spot of his rotation. They're kind of still playing around with some different mixes there, but Madison's got a rotation potential of the future that's really got me excited for their potential growth. So those are just two young arms, fifth rounders, that have just worked out nicely for them over there.
All right, Jay. Who's your last out of the ones that you? I know we made lists longer than 3, but who do you want to highlight as your last one?
I actually just picked 3, so we're good.
Okay, even better.
Griff Aspinwall of Reno. So rookie this year. I think he had maybe like 10 at bats last year or something. But another guy that I've kind of had on my short list is following. Like I think, kind of complete game, right? Like he can hit for contact well. He can get the ball to the gaps well. Like decent home run power. Doesn't really strike out. And I kind of like him as like kind of a second baseman or a third baseman, and he can play either of them equally well. I think obviously being in the top 100 prospects, I don't really know, like, is he really hidden? But I think this is somebody that hasn't really gotten any attention yet. Right? He's putting up some really solid numbers this year. I think hitting around 275, 2.5 WAR pace right now. Like, this is just another one of those guys, I think, again, that maybe necessarily isn't going to be your franchise player, but like the guys that you're building your team with instead of around. Seems like one of those kind of cornerstone guys, and it's kind of, again, just a complete player, like smart on the base pass, can steal the bases, like somebody that I'd love to have on in Florida or Madison or New Jersey or Scotland. Like, this is just like kind of the glue guys, I like to call them. And then my scout says as well, like he's got high for leadership, high for loyalty, high for work ethic, like just those guys that kind of help drive your team. Griff seems very much like one of those. So wanted to give him some attention too.
A great name too.
Yeah.
Griff Espinwall.
So Ruben.
One of my good friends growing up was Griff. So yeah, Griff's a great name. Griff's. So all right. I'm gonna fire off a couple names in my division quick, and then we'll move on to the next topic. I'm not gonna get into them too deep, but do want to shout out to right fielder Tomomi Harada from Amsterdam. He's one to keep an eye on. And then a guy that I would say probably his age is still young, but he's been in the league for, I think this is his third season. Outfielder Zach Osmond from London. He's definitely one that looks like London will have for a long time. It'll be good. Good player to build around. I know he's coming back from injury. So, guys, definitely two more guys to look out for. But I don't want to take up too much time on this one because I'm more interested in this next topic, which is how do you determine when a prospect is ready to get the call to PEBA? When do you promote him? Is it, I know everyone has their own opinion on it. I'm excited to hear you guys' opinion on it. So, Michael, when do you know a guy is ready, or how do you make that decision?
As you said, it's all going to be situational for every single team. Somebody like West Virginia, they're going to tend to hold guys down because they're going to be blocked. Their team's so stacked and loaded. Same even with Jay, probably with his team. His current team with Florida is so stacked, it's probably going to take guys a little bit longer. You're going to be more willing to hold guys down. Obviously, if you're a rebuild, you might shift guys up a little bit longer. I'd say probably for now for New Jersey, I'm somewhere kind of stuck in the middle. I'm not a powerhouse team. I'm not in the middle of a rebuild. I'm just trying to find better pieces where I can. So for me, I'm going to see, I play with all the ratings. So if like I draft a guy, I'm checking, how would he compare to the rookie league? How is he going to compare to short season A? How is he going to compare to high season A? What's he rated at? If it seems like he can be productive based on ratings, because obviously all I have is out of the draft is going to be college or high school stats. So I'm going to see probably where I can first put him. Age obviously takes a part of that decision as well. I'm not a big fan of sending guys super young, super high up early because I want to give them a chance to grow in like a perfect world. So I think probably a good guy on my squad right now would be my pitcher in AA, La Flama Blanca. I've been taking him up kind of just a year at a time, letting him dominate and do well at each level. I'm probably going to next season or this coming off season, now that he'll finally have enough time in the league, I'll probably give him one more pitch, see if giving him a fourth pitch will kind of really put him over the top and let him start off in AAA. I'm not necessarily hurting to call up another guy super early right now. So for me, preference wise, if I'm not kind of in one of those boats where you're a super team and you've got a lot of guys held back anyway, or if I'm not a rebuilding team, which to me, if you're rebuilding, you're going to probably let guys start earlier because you have the space for it. You want to give them the chance. Kind of if you're a middle of the ground team, like I consider New Jersey, even though we're playing well right now, is just give them a chance, give them their year at their whatever league they're in. If they're in single A, double A, let them excel. I think it does better for them to excel and kind of dominate rather than going up a level and struggling or something if you're just trying to fill a hole.
So, like, if, for example, like I got Bill Evans pulled up on the screen right now. There we go. He's a guy you've got on your AAA squad. Is it one of those situations where with him, he's still got a little bit more to develop, and there's just not the spot open?
That's pretty much it right now. It was going to be him or Norris that got a shot and a chance, and I went with Norris out of the Winter League, just because he was a little bit more developed. I picked up Evans in the middle of last year, so I got a taste of him. Um, but I ended up going with Norris and giving him a bit of a shot just a little bit early as well. Because I had a placeholder in there with Jose Lopez, who's a little bit older. He was pitching well enough, but typically if a guy's like not wowing me, I'll give him a couple outings and I'll move on to the next guy relatively quickly. That's just something I do. So I ended up giving Norris a shot before I ended up getting Evans a shot. The other thing with Evans is he was out hurt to start off the year. Same when he was I think one of my three arms that went down, or no, he might have come down afterwards. I forget. I think he came down to the second group of injuries, but I want to give Evans a little bit more time this year to develop, and then we'll see next year if I can try to slot him up as well.
Is he a guy you consider adding a pitch to, or are you good with this mix?
At 4 pitches, with only one pitch being so high, I'm probably not going to do it. I'm going to leave him and just hope for the best. The reason being is he's only got one pitch that's super high. The rest of them are all kind of mediocre. So my concern then is that whenever pitch, if he did pick up another one, it's just going to probably be somewhere middle ground. I forget exactly how that works. I think the higher rating pitches you have, the better chance you have of whatever new pitch to be higher rated. If I remember correctly, I don't have that open.
Yeah, so if you have like you have the highest rated pitch in your arsenal is like a 9, then that would be the max that you could get on a roll for a new pitch. So you won't be able to get 9, but you can still get the 9.
Yeah, so he's got one pitch that's high, but I don't want to take the chance to add in one crappy pitch or something. So I'll probably leave it. I don't know. I'll think about it this offseason because I purposefully left some extra CP this offseason to make sure the following year, if I wanted to get a little creative, I'd had some flexibility to send 2 guys to winter ball.
What about you, Jay?
For
when is it time for Florida? Like how do you?
Yeah. So
my situation you're in.
Yeah, my approach with really kind of everything, whether it's calling up from AA to AAA, from short A to A, like AAA to the majors, just like, is this guy objectively a better player than who I've got at the position? Like, it doesn't matter, if they've got a year of service time, they've got, no service time, like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm just trying to see, if I compare this guy rating for rating with who I've got in the lineup now, like, is he better? For me, like, I'm big on reps, or, I say reps because football, but like, just plate appearances, right? The more looks I can get at a guy, the more I want to play him, right? So for me, I'm just trying to, my top kind of prospects, I'm just trying to get them as many reps as I could possibly get them, right? Just to kind of know what I've got coming in. And then Seki's like a good example now. Like, I've drafted him just last year as a starting pitcher. Like, he had a really good outing, and like, I've got some bullpen needs right now. So I've been playing at closer for the last couple of sims, and I just kind of want to see, is he somebody that I feel like I can trust in kind of a high leverage, like, major league situation? And so I want to test that out in the minors, right? I don't want to bring up and find out if he can't do it, right? So for me, I'm just kind of looking at like the current state of my team at any given level, and then I'll just bump down one level and see, like, is there anybody who could be an upgrade over anybody I've got in the lineup now? So that's kind of just my approach to it.
Well, and the other thing with him too, I mean, you said you drafted him last year. If you were to call him up, you still could technically send him to winter ball next year because you wouldn't have the full year. It's definitely interesting because a decent third pitch on him, he could be a really good starter.
Yeah. Again, I think my scout had him as a ground baller, but I think he lost it. So we don't really know.
It's showing power now.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. Fastball, curveball combo, throwing 96, 98. Definitely take it.
Yeah.
Let's kind of go through your system a little bit and see maybe like I know you have like your lineup has a ton of hitters that are basically holding spots. So a guy like Rollins on certain teams in the league would be playing right now
Yeah,
on
like
someone's starting lineup, but you have him at AAA.
yeah, he's a guy like I was planning on calling him up this year, but like again, like I don't know, is he better than Melvin James? Right? Is he better than really kind of? He's not better than obviously Gordon Knopp, right? He's not better than Jose Rios, right? Like kind of where do I put him in the spot? Again, like I'm trying to get as many reps as I can to get like the look at him that I can get. But I will say like once somebody hits like that Rule 5 eligibility, and I put him on the 40 man, then like if Robbie Rollins comes and he ends up being kind of just a backup corner infielder for a couple of years, like that's going to be his role. But like I am still a fan of him. I do think he's probably got that potential to be a 25, 25, 30, 30 guy. I just don't have anywhere I can play him right now. So I'd rather have him, show out in AAA or like kind of see what he can do at different spots in the lineup in AAA than have him just kind of come up and not be able to get the plate appearances up in the majors. Because I think that's more than anything. Like I think like the plate appearance is kind of what drives development. So
what you're really trying to say though is that if somebody would have just traded with you, Rollins would be on your team right now.
yeah. If somebody would have taken Gordon off, we got Robbie Rollins Rookie of the Year.
Hey, you could always just trade Rollins and continue the retooling in the minors and feeding your system that way.
Yeah, let's talk later, Jay.
Oh, yeah, let's talk.
What's the asking price going to be for him?
Robbie Rollins? I don't know. Maybe some younger prospects. Maybe pick. Like I think we can kick the can down the road a little bit. Like, I picked up Chris Krebs this offseason too. Like, and he's because like I thought maybe Robbie Rollins could be somebody that like I bring in as pinch runner or something. Call him up. But then Chris Krebs was just kind of on the market, so he's like 310s on speed, stealing, and base running. So kind of even he usurped Robbie.
Oh, he looks like a good player. I mean,
yeah.
Let's see, what can I contribute to this discussion? Oh, okay. I'll do it from the perspective just of the Scottish in general, and it's a little bit different because we're not at the level that Florida is, and we've won the division a couple times in the transatlantic, so we don't have to go through a juggernaut like West Virginia is that like Michael has to deal with all the time. So it's if you're in a situation where you feel like the division's open or you have a chance, I think like I thought when I joined this league, and then I still believe, the key thing for me is you have to be able to understand kind of where your team's at, and if you've got a guy that's close and it's an upgrade to your team. So like for example, Thomas Connolly, I think there'd be a lot of people in the league that would say that I'm stupid for having him be in my starting rotation. That he's got a lot to go on control, and he walks too many guys. And I wouldn't say they're necessarily wrong, but what I would say to that is, who else am I going to start? Am I going to go get a guy that's like 6'5" and start him rather than Connolly's already had a full year at AAA, already pitched well. What's the point of just leaving him there? I mean, last year he was a little bit below league average, but if I was going to go replace him with somebody, it's going to be probably another player that's below league average that doesn't really show me any high upside, or I'm going to go spend a lot of money on a starting pitcher that's probably middle tier from free agency and eats up salary that way. So I don't know. It's one of those where I think there's a mindset of just, I kind of touched on it earlier, of letting guys, I would say, cook at AAA or a certain level until they're fully developed. And my biggest advice to anybody would be to never do that, because you're essentially just waiting. You're wasting those players' years that within that window of being truly elite. And ultimately, I know a lot of people will be like, well, my team's window's 2 years down the road. I don't want to start the clock on this guy. I'll bring him up when he's 24 or 26. Okay, great. But it's like, I just always question, it's like, how much are you really saving and how much are you really gaining by these like extra years of team control versus what it's actually doing to your organization in the long term? Because you're not going to go improve your team 30 games in 1 year. So if you're putting out, bad teams year after year, and then you're waiting to bring up a group of guys, I don't think it's as realistic. I would focus on bringing up guys and challenging them. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Another thing too is like, a lot of people are really set on the whole idea of I have to have a guy as a full season at this level, and then jump him to double A at full season, and then triple A at full season. And I think in general, yeah, that's the way you do it. But to touch on something that you said earlier, Michael, you go and look at a guy's relative rating, and I'll just pull up like someone like Luna on my team, and you look at their relative rating for like A ball, he's going to be one of the top players in A ball. What's interesting, and I'm kind of struggling with, is that if you go and look at double A, he's actually just about as good at double A. So I'm in this dilemma right now of, he's performing well at A. We've got a good team at A, surrounded him with some good players. Do you keep that, or am I looking, okay, if I get him a double A, that means he's one step closer to being to my PEBA roster. So it's a dilemma that my team faces right now, but I think it's one that ultimately everyone kind of has to deal with, where when do you like stop that line of, if you have a number in your head of how many games or certain performance at a level versus, you check the relative ratings and they look like they're ready.
I think you brought up a good point, or I think we've all kind of said it in our own ways. It's just, it really comes down to what your need is. And that's kind of really going to dictate. There's almost no wrong answer unless you just take a guy from straight out of the draft, throw him into your majors when his ratings are like all at ones or something like that. Maybe that's the only time that someone can really go like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" You have to go with what you got, and you got to figure out what's going to be the best for your team and your needs at the time. Like Conley, personally, I wouldn't call him up because I believe more in control, and I think it's just more important. So I always hesitate on guys with low control, but I'm not scoffing at the fact that he brought him up. For Luna, he's rated the same way between single A and double A, but at the same time, double A doesn't have an age cap, single A does. So double A, you're going to get teams, even my team has the occasional 28, 29, 30-year-old just to fill the holes because I don't have a very deep minor league system. So now he's going up against guys that probably should be playing, old washed up guys from PEBA or 4A type of guys. So then, while he might be doing okay now, is he going to struggle or is he going to excel? I would let him personally just dominate if that's what he's going to do it at single A, and just let him look good, because I think that's important for each player as well. To me, I just tracked and noticed that guys that you let consistently do better. I mean, look at West Virginia, look at even Aurora back in the day. These guys that let guys sit in the minors for a little bit longer, where they go on that path, and when they're doing well and they're surrounded with good players, they tend to do better when they get up to the majors than guys you've kind of mishandled and potentially bounced around to 4 different levels all in 1 year or something like that. Because consistency is important as well, because not everyone's adaptable, not everyone's got the work ethic. And if they start struggling, it might just hamper their growth in the future. At least maybe I'm thinking too deeply and the engine doesn't run that way, but it's just from observation. That's kind of the way I've seen it.
Yeah, but I was just gonna kind of chime in as well, like just to Sean's point, like, I mean, if you're looking at it like, oh, like I've got to keep these guys open for a window, or like I don't want to call this guy up. Like for me, I constantly look at Charleston. Like that AAA team would beat their major league team. I don't understand like kind of what benefit do you have from keeping Goto in the minors there? What benefit do you have from keeping Guerrero in the minors, from keeping Hughes and Nunez? Like all these guys are in the minors that are markedly better than the players in the major leagues. So at that point, I really don't understand what you're doing other than like kind of stunting the growth of your own prospects and maybe trying to tank and like pick up more kind of, future picks. But like to some extent, I do like think that there are some ways to screw up like the development of your players.
Yeah, and I think this is a great topic that we can get into, I think, in a future podcast. Because this is, I was thinking the exact same thing, Jay. You're hitting the nail on the head. You see these types of examples where you start questioning, like, I don't know how many times I had Zoo as my rookie of the year, and he ends up never playing, or he ends up playing a couple innings only and gets sent back down. So I'm right there with you. There's ways that I don't agree with it doing, and I would question probably maybe what is, for instance, in this one instance here, what is Charleston doing other than hoping to maybe get a few more early picks and then maybe another year before he just launches everyone up at once. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the one other thing that I would probably add is maybe how much emphasis do people put or GMs put on winning that rookie of the year? Is that driving people like, I'm going to hold this guy back because I want him to be as good as possible so he can win rookie of the year, just so he has that kind of accomplishment?
Definitely a thought. I mean, some people are really into that aspect of the game and ensuring, creating that story and making sure that that player fits that. So I think it's too early for us to check qualified rookies for PEBA stats, but yeah, it definitely is a thing.
Topics for later.
Yeah.
Every single time we're coming up with more topics. It's awesome.
Yeah, all the time. Maybe we'll make it to episode 5.
How do you got that ticker on there?
Oh, let me. All I did was I just went to if you go to the home PEBA page within the game.
Oh, okay. I thought you were on standings. I just didn't look where you're at.
Oh yeah, no, it just has a ticker going on the bottom.
I've literally never noticed that before.
Probably, I mean, I don't go on this page very often. So,
it's one of my first pages to go to.
It always airs out whenever I click on the news articles from there, so I try to avoid it.
Yeah, yes. That's my thing too. Yeah.
Avoid the news any way you can because it will crash your game, freeze it up. Jeez.
And PEBA and in real life.
There you go.
It's like generally good rule to follow.
Well, thanks, guys. I think we can end it on that note. Happy Thanksgiving to you all, and hopefully you have a good break here.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Later.
Bye.